All right, the goal today is to work with some constraints when you are making a drawing. So the very first thing we're going to have to do is open up a drawing um, sheet. Once again, I'm going to select the green and red plane. That is the XY plane, and it's going to open up a drawing window for me. You may have noticed when you're doing some things, like for example, if I start at the origin and go up and click, and then if I go straight to the right and click, there's some funny little symbols that are coming in here. And these are constraints. Anytime that a constraint is put in, it means that it's forcing two things to happen in a certain way. For example, this constraint is the perpendicular constraint. It's right here. This constraint is the horizontal vertical constraint, which is one of the ones that's right here. If at any point in time a constraint comes in, like if you notice when I try to move this around, it's always keeping this at a right angle, and it's always keeping this straight up and down. If I want to remove the constraint, because maybe the computer put it in automatically and I don't want it there, I can click on it and then just press the delete key and the constraint goes away. Now when I try to move this around, you'll notice it's not forced to a 90-degree angle, and I can move it around in any way, shape, or form. And if I actually delete the other constraint by clicking on it and pressing delete, now I can go all the way around like so. So today when we're doing some of these, there might be some auto constraints that get put in. If that happens, let's just delete those right away, because the goal is to teach you a little bit of something about all of these constraints that are up here. So we're going to make a document, a drawing sheet. Doesn't matter if you're in inches or millimeters. We're not actually going to finalize this drawing. We're never going to go to where we click on the finish sketch. It's just going to be practice. So at the end of the day, you don't have to save it. You don't have to do anything. You should just bring it over and show me when you're done, and then you will get credit. We're going to make some drawings like these right here, and then we're going to work to put some constraints on them. And once again, the whole goal is just simply to learn something about constraints. So the first thing that I'm going to do is use the line tool, and I'm just going to put 2 lines on the page. It would be great if you guys could keep the drawings in roughly the same order and shape, so when you bring it up for me to look at, it's very easy for me to see that you've done them all. So I'm just going to go kind of over here somewhere and put a line, not straight horizontal or not straight up and down. I'm just going to put a diagonal line on there, and then from that I'm going to use the line tool, and I'm going to put another line off at some angle on that. So these 2 lines are not perpendicular at this point. And if you notice, it did already put some automatic constraints in. Your computer may or may not do that. If it does, just delete them. Delete, click on the constraint, delete. The first one that I'm going to use is the perpendicular constraint. So I'm going to make these 2 lines perpendicular. So I'm going to click on the perpendicular constraint, click on line number 1, click on line number 2, and they are now perpendicular. I'm just going to extend that point. Oops, I still have the perpendicular constraint because I can tell by the little the little symbol by my arrow. So I'm going to hit escape to get out of that. I'm just going to make sure that these lines are connected. There we go. Drawing number 1 is done. Drawing number 2, I'm going to have 3 random lines. Once again, I don't want them to be perfectly straight up and down. I also don't want them to be connected, so I'm pressing escape in between them. There we go. And a third one, like so. Perfect. And once again, a couple of constraints came in. I'm just going to click on that and delete them because that way I'm going to learn something about a constraint. In this case, that was the constraint that I'm going to use. It's called the parallel constraint. It's right next to perpendicular. If I click on the parallel constraint, I'm going to click on one line, click on a second line, and those 2 lines will now be parallel to one another. If I click on the first and the third, or the second and the third, those will be parallel to one another. So click on a line, click on the one I want to be parallel, and you can see that those constraints were applied. Right now, if I try to move one of these, it's always going to stay parallel to the other ones. The third constraint that we're going to learn is a little something about circles. So I'm going to have to put 3 circles on the page. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to put circle 1. It doesn't matter how big it is. What I don't want to do is I don't want to line these circles up. So I don't want to put a dot directly underneath that first one. I'm going to go off to the left a little. Perfect. Go off to the right a little, and you see that? It was trying to line them up. So I'm not going to line up any of those circles. I'm going to have them kind of just 3 circles on the page like so. Alright, according to the directions, I'm going to take circle 3. I still have the circle tool active. I can see it's active up there, so if I hit escape a couple times, that circle tool should go away. There we go. And I'm going to select this circle, and I want to dimension that circle. So I want to dimension that so that it is 2 inches. So I'm just going to drag that dimension over here and click, and put in 2.0, hit enter. And that circle is now 2 inches. In addition to that, something else that I want to do, I'm just going to move these away from it a little bit, is I'm going to fix these two so that they can no longer move. That's a different constraint. So right now I still have the dimensioning tool active. I pushed escape a couple times to get out of it. And I want to fix this one. So the fix constraint is that lock. It's basically just going to lock it in place. If I click the fix icon and click on that, it turns green, which means that is fixed. I'm going to fix that one, so that one's on green. That means I cannot move them at all. They are going to be permanently stuck in that position. The last constraint I'm going to use, and I still have the fix one active, so I'm pushing escape a couple times to get out of that. So I'm going to use this tangent constraint. And I'm going to make this circle tangent to these two, which means one edge of it is just going to touch it. So I'm going to click the tangent tool, click on the circle that's blue still, click on the circle that's green, and now those two are tangent to one another. They just touch at one spot right there. I'm going to make this blue circle tangent to the other green one. So I'm going to click on the blue circle, click on the green one, and there we go. 2 tangent constraints have appeared. I still have the tangent constraint active on my cursor, so I'm pressing escape to get out of that. So far we have 1, 2, 3 drawings done. This is drawing number 4. In this case, for drawing number 4, I'm going to use the line tool. Click somewhere over here and make a diagonal line. Perfect. Click. And then from there, I am going to go straight across, and it does not matter how big these lines are. Click. Once again, a couple of constraints came in as I did it. It thinks I wanted to make this line parallel, probably to that. Yeah, it was to that one. The computer is trying to do what it thinks I want it to. I don't want that to be there, so I'm going to click on the constraint and delete it. If you don't have that, that's fine. Then there's nothing for you to delete. I'm also going to delete this one. Click, delete. So I want my drawing to start with no constraints added to it at all. I need a circle up here. There we go. So this is what I'm starting with. And in this case, I'm going to make this circle tangent to both of these lines. We already used the tangent tool once. So here it is. I'm going to click on the circle, click on the line, and that circle is now tangent to the line. I still have the tangent tool active, so I'm going to click on the circle, click on the line, and now that line is tangent to the circle, and drawing 4 is done. 8 more of these to go. The next one, I'm just going to go down, so we're going to kind of have 4 in a row, and then we're going to do 4 in a row again. So using the line tool, I'm just going to draw 2 lines on my screen. I don't want them to be connected, so I hit escape a couple of times. I'm clicking the line tool again, putting a second line on here, like so. And in between those 2 lines, I'm going to have a circle. So I'm going to use the circle icon, and I'm just going to put a circle right in between them. In this case, what I want to do is I want to fix the circle. So I want to fix the circle in one spot. So I'm going to go to the fix icon, click on it, and fix my circle so it cannot go anywhere. And then I'm going to make points, the ends of these lines. I'm going to make them coincident with the center of that circle. So right now the fix tool is still selected. What I want to do is select the coincident constraint. Notice when I hold it here, it actually gives you a little description of what that constraint does. So if I select that one, I can take the end of the line, click, and the center point of the circle, click, and those 2 things are now going to be in the same spot. They are coincident. They're coexisting in the same place. I can do the same thing with this one. I'm going to click, the end of the line, click the center of the circle, and now those 2 points are coincident. They won't move. They're going to be stuck there forever because there's a constraint that's holding them together. That is drawing 5. So on to drawing 6. I'm just going to have 3 circles. There's 1. Size does not matter. I just do not want those points to be in any line or shape. There's 2. And let's go, sure, right there. 3. Doesn't matter if they're overlapping or anything like that. I want the circles to be concentric. The concentric constraint is this one that looks like circles. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to select the largest circle first. That's just the way my mind works. And concentric means they're going to share a center point. So I'm going to start here and then click the circle next to it. And they are now, ooh, those are almost the same size. They weren't. If I zoom in, you can see that there's 2 circles there. I'm going to continue to use the concentric circle. I'm going to click this one and click the other one. And now those are concentric. So they all have the same center point. They all have the same center point. I'm just going to move. Oh, now I'm changing the size of that one. That's fine. It's fine. All right. Drawing, the next drawing that I'm doing is the collinear constraint. So I need 2 lines. Line number 1, line number 2, make sure they're not connected. There we go. And collinear means that the lines are going to line up in a straight line. Right now they're not even close to being collinear. The collinear constraint is right up there. Again, a little box pops up telling you what that's going to do. I'm going to click the collinear constraint, click line 1, click line 2, and now they are collinear. They're also overlapping at this point, so maybe I could have started that one a little bit better. But you should be able to see that they are indeed 2 lines, and they're in a straight path. It's kind of like the parallel constraint, but not quite. Horizontal constraint. So I need a line 1. I'm making sure that I'm making it at some angle so no other constraints pop in automatically. I'm going to put another line underneath it. There we go. Also very similar to the parallel constraint, I'm going to make these 2 lines horizontal. So obviously if I'm making them both horizontal, it's going to end up being where they're going to be parallel as well. So the horizontal constraint is this one. Now it's interesting to note that I'm going to use the same constraint in just a minute for the vertical. The same thing does both. If the line that you're starting with is more horizontal, the computer is going to think you're trying to use the horizontal constraint. So for example, click, and it made it horizontal. If I do it here, click, it made it horizontal. If the line I click on, I'm going to hit escape a couple times to get out of it. By the way, that was drawing 8. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So here's my vertical constraint. It's the same tool I just worked with. Notice that the lines I'm drawing this time are almost vertical, because now when I use that same tool, it thinks that I'm trying to make that one vertical and this one vertical. If those were almost horizontal, it would automatically make them horizontal instead of vertical. So that constraint sometimes can be a little bit frustrating to use. All right, that was drawing number 9, by the way. To do number 10, I'm going to make a triangle. I do not want any of the sides of the triangle to be equal. And there's my triangle, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make this into an equilateral triangle. To make it into an equilateral triangle, I'm going to use the equals. So select the equal constraint, click a line, click a second line, and those are now equal. Click the second line, click the third line, and now those are equal, and I've made a perfectly equilateral triangle. I can use the same constraint for circles or lines. So for example, in the next drawing, here's a circle. Here's a second circle that is obviously of different size. Using the equal constraint, click circle 1, click circle 2, they will be the same size. If you dimension one of them now, to make it say, to make it say, right now it looks like it's 4, I'm going to make it 2. Click 2.0, enter. They both dimensioned at the same time because those circles are equal. If I click on the dimension and make it 3, both of them are going to dimension together because I applied the equal constraint to both of them. The last drawing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put 3 circles. I'm going to apply the equal constraint to them and the horizontal constraint to them so that they all line up in a perfect straight line. These are just good tools to work with. So here's circle 1, here's circle 2, here's circle 3, and boy, that circle 2 might not. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to move it over here. There we go. So they're kind of, if it thinks it's trying to do vertical, it'll do it vertical again. So I'm going to hit escape a couple times, select the equal. Circle 1 will be equal to circle 2. Circle 2 will be equal to circle 3. And then I'm going to apply the horizontal constraint. Circle 1 is now horizontally constrained with circle 2. Circle 2 is now horizontally constrained with circle 3. And they're all in a nice straight line. So that's it. Do not finalize the sketch because when you bring this over to show me, I do want to see the constraints that have been applied so that I know that you've done the assignment in the proper way. You can just bring this over and show it to me, and then no need to save. Once I put the points in the gradebook, the points are in. All right, good luck getting her done, and if you need any help, just ask some questions.